Okay, so welcome, and welcome. We are right now waiting for simply Michael Popak, who I have just invited up. Yes, Michael Popak. You have Michael Wolff, Michael Popak, and Michael Cohen. You now have the trifecta of Michaels. Let me actually just jump on here and see why I'm not seeing Popak coming on. Yeah, I tell you this. Um, I just did. This is so crazy.
Yeah, well, I've just joined Substack and I'm unraveling this, which is not, yeah, it's not hard, but it takes some getting used to.
It's annoying, I'll tell you that. Oh, well, happy Halloween to each and every one of you as we're just waiting for another minute. One for Michael Popak, Legal AF, to join us. Um, More importantly, you know what? Maybe that's the one that I should be putting this thing under. Hold on one second. Hold on. Maybe it's my fault. I hate to admit it. Could be. You know what? That could be it. Hmm. All right, let's see whether or not there we go. My fault completely. I had it under you, Popak, individually, and not Legal AF. Stupid me. Apologies. By the way, as I was noting, you have Michael Popak, Michael Wolff, and Michael Cohen, the trifecta of Michaeliciousness. All right, this is Michaeliciousness. Look, obviously, we're thrilled to have you here, Michael Wolff. There's so much that's going on. And I thought I needed help. I generally don't. But if I'm going to ask anybody for help in terms of using this time with you to elicit the most important responses, I call on Popak for that. But I do want to start with your slap litigation against Melania Trump for defamation. And I was hoping that you can share with our subscribers exactly what was going on there.
Yes. Okay. On a few days prior to October 20th, I received a letter from lawyers representing Melania Trump. They also represent Donald Trump, but it's informing me that that the First Lady was going to commence a defamation action against me for $1 billion for certain statements that I had made about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I rush to say that most of these statements about Jeffrey Epstein were no more incriminating or defamatory than that she knew Jeffrey Epstein, that they moved in the same social circles, and um, that Jeffrey Epstein himself, in a recorded interview that I have, said that she had first had sex with Donald Trump on his airplane. Um, and we have seen, not all, but most of us have seen the pictures of Melania Trump and Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together. Okay, so nothing was over the top here in any way. So she sent this letter, and my response, and the response of my attorneys was on October 20th to go into court in New York State and sue her under what are called anti-SLAPP laws. Now, a SLAPP lawsuit is a defamation suit for the express purpose, and the implication is that you would have here almost no chance of winning a defamation action. So you file the suit not to win, but to intimidate someone, to shut them up, basically, keep them from talking. Um, and um, and that in New York State there are statutes against that. You're just not allowed to do that. So that's the action that we have commenced. Also, And
Just so
at
that
the
just
same,
so that everybody understands who are not attorneys here, SLAP actually stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation.
thank you. Yes. So, and that's what it says. We're suing you so you don't say what you have the right to say. Um, Now, having filed this suit, this gives me subpoena power. So I can, were this to go forward, which I actually hope it does go forward, um, I have the right to call Melania Trump, to call Donald Trump, to call anyone who might have information about their relationship.
Well, okay, so Mike
Yep.
Wolff, so Mike, hold on, Mike Popak. What would be some of the grounds that they would not force her to come in to be deposed in order, or when you hit them with a demand not to delete any files and to retain, it's called a document retention. What would be some of those issues?
Well, first of all, I want to compliment Michael and his lawyers. I think it's a brilliant strategy. I've been doing this a long time, including in New York, in the same courts that Michael is in. And rarely do I see the person who's being shaken down, if you will, with a defamation demand letter run to court first preemptively to have a judge declare it can't possibly be defamation and call it for what it is. It's not that they think that Michael actually defamed them. He's been reporting vigorously about all things Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein for years, being somebody who was the would be biographer of Jeffrey Epstein and done work with Donald Trump. Never been sued before like that. This is, as Michael said, was to chill his First Amendment expression. They don't want to really win a suit. They want to shut Michael up. That's the slap aspect. But I can tell you that there's not many judges who will have handled a case the way Michael has brought it. It's that novel, but really strongly. I had Michael on with Sidney Blumenthal on Legal AF, and we got into the nitty gritty of it right after it was filed. It opens the door for all sorts of discovery. I mean, Melania. I mean, I don't know what she's done tactically yet in terms of the lawsuit, but I'm only covering it from what I'm reading. But in terms of opening the door where she's going to have to sit for a deposition, for sure. Sidney Blumenthal had a good observation about her agent at the time when she was a model, because a lot of this has to do with not Melania First Lady, but Melania, models and bottles and jet setters and social circles. And so there's people during that era that need to be heard from. Much like when E. Jean Carroll sued for sexual abuse, she had to bring in friends from the 1980s and 1990s to talk about things that were contemporaneous with that time period. The document preservation notice, I mean, I got to tell you, I write a lot of demand letters. One of my favorite parts is when I tell them you are not to destroy. And if you do, there are sanctions for destroying documents related to this matter. It's one of my favorite parts of it. And I have been in cases where, notwithstanding the preservation notice, when I get them in deposition, we all realize that they've destroyed documents, which is already a win for the case before you even really get started. And who would put it past Alejandro Brito, this lawyer in my neck of the woods in Coral Gables, Florida, who's the go-to defamation lawyer of choice, about doing things like that. See, they don't think through it. It's easy to demand $1 billion from Michael. It's hard in a wood-paneled courtroom to ultimately win that case. Now, she hasn't answered it or countersued yet, has she, Michael?
No, she hasn't countersued and she hasn't answered us. So we have not heard from her or her lawyers at all.
Nor has she made a move to get it out of state court into some other court, right?
Say that again.
Nor has she
No,
moved to remove
she
it
is
to
not.
federal
She
court.
is not.
Yeah.
But
So,
the problem with them trying to move it on jurisdictional basis is the fact that she's actually residing in New York. She's located at the Trump Tower,
no,
where she is currently residing. She's
right,
not
which is
in the White House.
so if she does try to move it, that gives us another avenue in which we can subpoena her and subpoena appropriate records and establish, among other things, that she really does not live with with her husband, the President of the United States.
Right. I'm sorry. So before I cut into having Michael Popak explain that secondary part, you were finishing by saying Mike Wolff.
Well, what I think I thought I finished that this gives us the opportunity, if there's a jurisdictional dispute, to say she lives in New York and she does not live, that would be the headline, does not live with her husband, the president, and has not for a very long time.
Which would reinforce your journalism, your reporting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let me move on to a different topic that I actually am very curious about, because not too long ago, they released the Acosta deposition. And to those of you, Acosta, not Jim Acosta, but I'm talking about Acosta, Alex Acosta, who was the attorney general that gave Jeffrey Epstein that sweetheart deal.
He was Michael. He was the federal prosecutor
I'm sorry,
in
the federal
Florida.
prosecutor, right, who gave him that sweetheart deal. And the release of that deposition kind of confirmed, at least it did for me, what many people suspected, right? That this plea deal was not predicated on incompetence, but rather coordination. I would love to get your perspective on that.
Which Michael do you want?
Michael Wolff first.
Yeah. I mean, this is an enormously complicated legal proceeding. So, among other things, you did have a jurisdictional issue there. Palm Beach, the state of Florida wanted to prosecute him, although some prosecutors in the state of Florida did not think they were pursuing this aggressively enough, so they tried to move it to the federal level. The federal level had many issues why they preferred that the state of Florida do this prosecution. Many of those issues may well have been political, too hot to handle. So this bounced back and forth, and ended up with, from the federal side, what's called a non-prosecution agreement, and that has always been a kind of interesting element of this, because the federal government, in this non-prosecution agreement was in 2008. The federal government came back in 2019 and effectively broke that agreement, which almost never happens. It may never have happened. And so then, jumping to 2019, there was the overriding question, which has not been answered, not least of all because Epstein died, about why this happened, how this happened. Was it Donald Trump stepping in to try to silence his old friend who had begun to talk about their relationship? Or was it the Southern District stepping in because they were trying to effectively investigate the president, and so we're trying to use Epstein to squeeze him for information against Donald Trump?
Interesting. Popak, give us your analysis.
Yeah, and I was down in South Florida when all this went down. I know Alex Acosta, at least 1 degree separated, when he was down here before he became the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. To Michael's point, I just think it's odd and reinforces that there's some Trump connection between Epstein's deal and Alex Acosta. Because look, right after the sweetheart deal negotiated by Dershowitz, who was representing Epstein at the time, right after that, Alex Acosta, of all things, gets into the White House, into the Trump administration as the labor secretary. It's like, is that a reward? Back to Michael's point, for having put Epstein away and chilled his speech while they were investigating him, or was it a reward because he got a sweetheart deal and a predator was left to continue to prey after women, serving a very little time in jail on a state charge of soliciting prostitution from a minor, which flips the whole victim thing on its head. You now have minors who are able to solicit prostitution instead of raping of children, which is really at the heart of what happened with Epstein. But why, of all people, is Acosta then elevated and kicked upstairs to a Trump administration position. So he had and he lost that job in the Labor Department when the media and Michael Wolff and everyone kind of reminded people of what Alex Acosta did in terms of Epstein. And now he's got to defend himself all over again.
Yeah, I just have a funny side note, not ha funny,
Yeah.
strange. Side note about Acosta is that when he was given that job, and I asked Bannon about this, Bannon said, "Well, he was the only honest Republican lawyer we knew in Florida."
Well, you don't need but wait a minute, you don't need a lawyer for the Labor Department. They've
No.
had plenty of look. You don't need doctors for the Surgeon General, apparently, or doctors for the CDC in the Trump administration.
Or
But that is
or
a weird
HHS,
comment.
or HHS for that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
On the same Acosta note, another thing that I found insanely perplexing is the fact that his testimony, Acosta's testimony, reads less like a defense and more like coded confessions. If you read his deposition, it references to things like national security, unusual pressure, classified reasons. I mean, it's like I wasn't sure if I was talking to or reading the deposition of a lawyer or a spy. Now, Mike Wolff, you've chronicled, obviously, the proximity to Trump and how it warps truth. How much of this Epstein narrative do you think is still being shaped or suppressed by Trump's orbit?
Oh, entirely. I mean, because remember, at the heart of this case, at the heart of the Epstein issue, is the fact, and let's just just take note that Prince Andrew has been utterly defenestrated by his relationship with Epstein this yesterday this week. Almost everyone else who has been shown to have any sort of relationship of any substance with Epstein has incurred enormous opprobrium, if not ruin. The person with the closest relationship with Epstein, the deepest relationship for the longest period of time, was Donald Trump. For more than a decade, these two guys were the best of friends. I actually believe that they that for each of them, this may have been the closest relationship in their lives. So obviously, so Donald Trump stands out singularly as the guy with the deepest relationship with Epstein who has not paid for it.
Popak.
Yeah, the you're watching the shaping, right? You get people like Alan Dershowitz who go on Republican propaganda platforms without revealing to the American people that he was the lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein, that he negotiated, that he went after many of the survivors and tried to intimidate them as he's campaigning to get Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon. I mean, talk about yellow journalism. You just go on and you don't say, "Hey, let me just tell the audience I have a little bit of a vested interest in this. I used to represent Epstein. I went after some of the survivors." No, it's just. I think Ghislaine Maxwell is a victim here too. It's mind-boggling.
I have another story here about what Epstein had said. So Epstein said, he said once to me, he said, "Here, I'll give you the best legal advice that you'll ever get. Hire Alan Dershowitz and do the opposite of what he says."
Great. Now, look, since, as you all know, I've spent about a decade and a half around Trump, shoulder to shoulder with the man for a very long time.
I never knew that, Michael. Is that your background?
Yeah. And well, it's part of it. I bring that up simply because there's no doubt in my mind that something is awry here in the fact that Trump's DOJ, Pam Bondi, and others are doing everything in their ability, whether it's Pam Bondi, whether it's even now MAGA Mike Johnson, by refusing to swear in Adelita Grijalva, who will be the 218th vote in the release of these files. There's something that's really remiss here. And I don't know what it is, but this notion, and I've had you on my Mea Culpa podcast, Mike Wolff, and you as well, Mike Popak, but I've had you on where we've talked about Donald Trump didn't have friends. And while Jeffrey Epstein may have referred to Donald as his best friend, I've always said that Trump has three best friends in the whole world: me, myself, and I. And Jeffrey Epstein ain't any of them. All right. Now, I know that Epstein had told you that and so on, but if I would have to say who was the closest to Jeffrey Epstein in his entire life, I would have to say that it was what's his name from Victoria's Secret.
Yeah,
Les
that was. I mean,
Wexner.
they were. Wexner was. They were close for a period, but that was largely a business
Yeah,
relationship.
that was finances, right?
The Trump relationship was a relationship. To be honest, it was mostly about women.
Yeah.
It was about, they were both obsessed with models, supermodels, runway models, catalog models, girls who just dreamed of being models. That was their currency. I hate to put it that way, but that was it. That was their idea of status.
I want to ask you a quick question, Mike Wolff. During your time with Jeffrey Epstein, did you ever get any inclination that he was a homosexual?
I did not. No.
Because there are people now who are raising that as the contention, and I was just curious as to what your take on that would be.
Yes, no, I obviously they were, and obviously Jeffrey Epstein had a range of sexual issues, fetishes. He was operating in a world, in a nether world of sexuality. So what went on there, and I have no idea. I only know what I have read. In my relationship with Epstein was, sitting at a table with other people, largely, almost exclusively men, talking about never talking about sex. So,
Michael, let me go back with Michael for a minute to the lawsuit, just because I'm rounding out here. I just want to try to get this in. So I read, I know about the letter, the demand letter from Alejandro Brito, $1 billion demand, giving you a period of time in which to withdraw and apologize. And then right at or about the deadline that was set in the letter, you and your lawyers filed first.
actually,
So what do you think had you not filed?
Well,
It's obvious to me that they didn't have a lawsuit ready, because I think they would have already brought their countersuit in order to step on the news story. So what do you think they would have done?
I don't know, but one scenario certainly is that they would not have done anything. And my understanding is they threatened Hunter Biden, and my understanding, and that was
you guys are both forgetting that they did it to me too.
Yeah. Well, you got sued though.
I got sued $500 million,
Right.
probably for the same exact cause of action that they would have just pulled my name off of it, just the last name, and slapped in the last name of Wolff on it.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking Michael.
Were you sued by Melania's lawyers?
Yes, same person.
It was Brito. They always use the same guy.
Yeah, he's the guy who sued the New York Times.
Yes.
Although when they tried to sue me after the publication of my first book, Fire and Fury, in 2018, it was that lawyer Harder who had done the Gawker case.
He found Brito after that and has used him ever since.
Yeah, listen, he's got He's a real lawyer. Let me put it to you that way. You may not like the
Oh,
basis. I certainly didn't. It cost me a fortune
he
in
got
terms of
ABC to settle on Stephanopoulos. He got,
sure,
same
sure.
guy.
He's got real victories there. But you
No,
know
I
what?
wasn't trying to make Michael Wolff feel like, oh well, maybe if you hadn't sued first. No, you had
No,
to.
no. I mean,
You had to sue.
yeah. I mean, I thought suing was a good idea.
Yeah,
I thought the principle of the thing, the premise, this was, I would have preferred someone else have had to go through this, but it came to me. I thought, okay, let's,
yeah.
this is what it is. But I think it's interesting that the Hunter Biden thing, that they threatened and then didn't act on this,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and clearly they can't. The chances of Melania Trump sitting for a deposition are remote. So the suit has their ability to sue has a shelf life.
Yeah. Before Mike Popak ends up leaving, I want to throw one more. Though I'm going to ask you to stay on after Popak ditches us because he's too important for us.
That's not
Like,
the way to put that.
by the
That's
way,
not the
by,
way to put that.
it's all right. I'm putting it the way I want. Hey, so here, by the way, keep smashing the red hearts, and at the very top, you'll see the Chiron. Do me a favor, if you hit that Chiron and you're a Michael Popak or a Michael Wolff or a Michael Cohen, just cross pollinate, please. You could subscribe to all of our Substacks, read our Substacks in the morning, as well as attend our lives. It's extremely important. But here's the question that I want to pose. All right. I want to ask a question that so far I don't believe anybody, not the press, no one, seems to want to touch or ask. So if Jeffrey Epstein was a construct, right, a vessel of influence, who's filling that vacuum now? Who's running the modern equivalent of that machine today under the radar while we're all staring at the ghosts of Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, for one thing, I think the important thing, we would not know who the nature of that construct. We would not know that person. We can speculate on who those people might be, and these would be people who run in MAGA circles at this point. Or perhaps there's a counterbalance to that. And in Democratic circles, I can't imagine who that would be at this point. But the nature of this kind of construct, of this kind of person, and there are many people operating in this role and maintaining that they hold this role, and actually the maintaining that they hold this role is the process by which they achieve this role, but no one is as actually they quite represent themselves to be in this role,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense at all.
It's funny because a Popak, before you split on us, everybody always knows. It's like, you knew in high school who was dealing pot, even though, of course, nobody, right? You knew who the dealer in the neighborhood was. You knew all the, everybody knew.
I never knew that.
I never smoked, but my point is everybody still know. If you know it and I know it, and there's 1,000 girls that were involved, 1,000 children, don't tell me that nobody's doing it now and that nobody's able to figure it out. I'm telling you, there's got to be something to that question.
I mean, the question of you think the ring is still being led, even though Jeffrey Epstein is no longer lead. I agree with you. I mean, but I don't want to fall down the rabbit hole of the dark web and believe that Democrats are leading a child uh, a pedophile ring and they're eating babies out of pizza places. I don't want to go there,
Right. You
but
and
I
I
will
both.
say that there's enough reporting about people in influence who have depraved sexual appetites and are using children as victims. I mean, look, we just saw Prince Andrew gets bounced from one of the royal houses, and now new reporting coming out about hundreds of prostitutes that the guy used. I was wondering, well, God, the story is sort of, I don't, it hasn't blown over because Virginia Joffrey's bio just came out after she died and all, and her book came out and all that. But like, what did they have on him that he has to give up his title and get bounced? Oh, now I see. So to your point, Michael, yes, it is still going on. Is it going on among the people that were in the original group in the 1990s with Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, the crazy thing here that I find. What's that?
Just one point. The Prince Andrew thing, and certainly in Epstein's telling, Trump was also involved with the Prince Andrew thing because they saw him as a kind of social currency, social climbing. They could use him and through him meet other people, and especially people involved in financings. He was a kind of conduit to a lot of European bankers. But Epstein also said, and he said this in a jocular way, but that was sort of his way of both joking and being serious, that he and Trump were in their relationship to Prince Andrew were what he called the Pussy Committee.
Right. Let's also, for a quick second, let not put out a hat to collect money for Andrew. I mean, and yes, while he's kicked out of his royal
I don't feel sorry.
he's gonna go live over at the estate of Birmingham, right? So I'm not crying for him. He's gonna have plenty to eat. He's gonna have housing. He's still gonna have cars, and he's still gonna have money because, despite the fact of all of this, he's still, believe it or not, eighth in line to the throne.
I'm worried about 44 million people getting their SNAP payments starting on Monday. But I'll leave it on this. To Michael Wolff's point, which sort of rounds it out, Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, he went to the wedding of Prince Fergie and the kid, and there's this whole world that kind of revolved around Andrew and Fergie and Epstein and Trump and people that are in the administration now. That we got to peel back this onion. That's why we turn to people like Michael Wolff to kind of get to the bottom of it. I can only comment on Michael's commentary, but Michael's really just to blow some sunshine his way for his new Substack. If you didn't know Michael Wolff before, you need to know Michael Wolff now. Make sure you subscribe to everything that has Michael's name on it.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll do this again. Maybe it seems like
we're gonna let Popo go.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks all. Happy Halloween weekend for everybody.
You too.
I'll see you, Michael.
So we're gonna let Mike Popo drop out because I do have one last question for you. In fact, you know who I'd like to bring up if he's still even around? I would love to bring up. Hold on one second here. I would love to bring up my friend Lev Parnas if he's still around. So we're going to see if Lev is still around. I just invited him, but I do have a question for you. Don't you think that the timing of all of these disclosures feels somewhat strategic, right? The files, the deposition, all of them being dropped as Trump's DOJ faces this renewed scrutiny for interference and obstruction. You think that this is a controlled burn, or do you think it's an attempt to manage what gets out?
I don't know. I'll be interested in your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think it's a controlled burn. I think that they absolutely know that when Adelita Grijalva gets sworn in, it's either the first motion that's going to be heard or the second on the House floor for the immediate and unredacted release of the entire Epstein file to Congress. And that becomes a problem. Again, I wish I knew what the problem actually was, because you've heard me say many times, I don't believe Trump was ever on Epstein's island. I know he was on the plane. I know he's certainly associated with Epstein in Palm Beach, but I don't know the fact that he's ever actually been to the island.
No,
That's
and
something.
I can confirm that I believe, and part of the issue there, and I think we've discussed this before, is that the island really did not, I mean, he started to reconstruct the island in about like 2001, 2002, and it wasn't really up and running until 2004, 2005, which is in 2004 is the moment when their relationship went south, Trump and
Yeah.
Epstein.
So I guess the point that I'm making is stands actually correct. But I do believe that there's things inside of that file that, for whatever the reason may be, this administration clearly does not want it released. We know by reportings that they put 1,000 agents on the review of the entire file, the entire Epstein file, within which to redact anything that had any connection at all to Trump or certain other individuals as well. And that's the part that we actually need to know. If these women who were children back then are ever to receive the justice that they deserve, these files must come out, including the fact that a whole slew of these women who were children back then, children, signed a letter to the DOJ, to government, demanding that they swear in Adelita Grijalva so that the 218th vote can be lodged.
Oh, well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me, Michael. Pleasure to meet you, Michaal Wolff. It's the first time. I want to commend you on some incredible.
Likewise, I was thinking, how is it that we have never met before?
Right.
But there it is.
Because
Michael
Michael Wolff,
Michael
I'm doing
Cohen.
you a big favor.
Michael Cohen always does. I want to welcome you to Substack. This is an incredible community and incredible movement that we have going on here, and we need more like people like you and incredible work. And thank you for the courage and going up against, joining our team and this putting out all that information, the truth that Trump and his team are trying to hide. I know you most of the time everybody talks about the victims and the survivors, and I think that's the most important thing. I think some of the stuff you also touched on with Epstein that I think is extremely important, that also has a lot of implication of what's happening in the relationships with Trump and what Russia and transactions and money, and especially towards the end and some of the interviews that were going on. What did you know, or did you, as far as when you interviewed Epstein, as far as his relationship with funding coming from Russia or stuff like that?
I don't. I mean, Epstein was a guy who, at the same time, was incredibly open and at the same time very squirrely. Um, so you would come away thinking that he had been transparent, and then you would go over it and realize, no, because somehow he got cut off, and somehow the suggestion there, but he didn't go further than that. I do know that there was a moment in which he was fairly explicit that that he had gone to see Putin at Putin's invitation. He had gone to Moscow, and he described a kind of elaborate um, procedure in terms of getting there, so his plane would not be tracked. Now, whether this is true or not, and that's the other thing that you realize in hindsight. What was he saying? Was it true? Yes, a lot of it is true because a lot of it has borne out, but other things have not borne out. And you think, well, is he just, was he just myth making? And he spent a lot of time doing that, and that was part of the world and the network that he was creating. That it was partly made up, but in having made it up, it kind of came at least partly true.
So, Mike Wolff, I want to jump on something that Lev just brought up for a second. What most people don't understand is the pain that these individuals inflict on others when when they file these lawsuits. I know that when the lawsuit was filed against me for the $500 million, I know everybody on television, even on Fox News, were saying this is a stupid lawsuit. Nevertheless, it still cost me several hundreds of thousands of dollars within which to defend. It's not just even the defense, it's the sheer magnitude of having a lawsuit, regardless of the amount, filed against you by the sitting president of the United States. So, along with Lev, I commend you for taking on the burden. The easiest thing to do is basically to say absolutely nothing, to do nothing, to sit back, throw your head into the sand, wait for all this to bypass, and then pull your head out of the sand at a time when he is no longer president. And who knows when that's going to even happen. So I commend you. But with that, again, I also just want to remind people now we have Lev up. So please hit that Chiron, cross pollinate. If you're a Michael Wolff, Michael Cohen, or Lev, just make sure that you hit those buttons, subscribe to all of us. And to those of you that can become paid subscribers, very much appreciated. Because Michael Wolff, please tell everybody, when you first got that letter from Brito, what went through your mind?
You know, well, other than the first was, oh fuck.
Uh-huh.
And then the second thing was fuck them.
Good for you. Good for you. That's I mean, that's a good one. I mean, because I mean, that's reality. Because when you get a letter like that saying, "Holy shit, my world's about to come upside down," but good for you for standing up and saying, "You know what? Fuck them. You know what? We're not going to take that. You know,
You
and
know,
we're going to."
and then I also thought, wait a minute. You know, I mean, this is what I do for a living, and this is the story that I'm pursuing, the story of a lifetime. And so I'm going through this. And so now let me get this straight. You're giving me the opportunity to question you under oath. Um, and then I'm thinking, well, if if you want to do that, you know, bring it on.
Yeah, I remember because when I got initially the lawsuit, the first thing that I said is, okay, now I got to pay for this nightmare. Maybe I'll be successful in getting my legal fees back, which of course, in this case, I was not able to. He dropped the case several days before the judge was to decide, which of course gives him the ability to reinstitute the lawsuit. But I said, when I find the lawyers, and I did, uh, I want to be the one to depose. I spent my entire first 15 years of my legal career litigating, deposing. I'm pretty fucking good at it.
That would have been worth all the money,
And
Michael,
then
to
I was
depose
thinking to
Trump.
myself, how do I get this on a pay-per-view event? You know? And unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen. But putting all that aside, I do, like Lev, I commend you, Michael Wolff, for being able to stand up. You know, most people don't know the trauma that even a single page, or in your case, it was probably a 2-page letter, because I received the same letter, a 2-page letter, you can't imagine the stress that it puts you under.
Yeah, no, I mean, you would know that better than anyone. But I suppose I am about to find out, and we can compare notes. You know, one of the things that I've been going through this, and I've been thinking, why are they doing this? Really, what's going on here? And I actually posted a piece on Substack today that, as I'm going over this and looking into this, you know, the interesting thing about Melania at this point is that there is a documentary about her life that Amazon is producing, that they've paid her $40 million for, that comes out in January. And it's she has an incredible deal, 40 million up front, 70% interest in the back end. She's taking corporate sponsors, and the director is this guy Brett Ratner, a famous action Hollywood director. And clearly she is going to be they're going to try to turn her into, and they're talking already about sequels, a kind of action hero, first lady, paragon of patriotism and virtue and all of that. And I thought, okay, that probably means that the last thing that she wants out there is a counter narrative, the narrative about who she was when she's an Eastern European model who came to the U.S., came to New York in the 1990s, which were the really bad old days of modeling, and the high point of Jeffrey Epstein in the middle of all this. So I thought, okay, that's the story she doesn't want to be told, because she is out to make money on this other story, and she will make big money.
It's not even.
But the funny thing is, she's already making big money. The whole family's making
billions,
big money.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not talking $40 million.
The thing about money and people making money is that there's never enough.
Yeah.
And then I also suspect, that her arrangement with the money with him, is
it's definitely different. It's not the same money.
For her own account.
Yeah, and I'm sure Barron right now is sitting on a couple of billion with all these Bitcoin and all these different games they've been playing through the cryptocurrency since they announced the election. I mean, they're raking in more money than they. Yeah, but you're right, Michael. I mean, it's always about the money, and no matter how much money you make, more money, more money, more money. That's what they're all about. That's why you could think about Trump's making billions, but he's still selling cell phones, Trump cell phones, Trump watches. It doesn't matter, because the grift, it's all about the grift. The more you could break in. It's like, sometimes I look at Donald Trump and the Trump family as like the Beverly Hillbillies. They want to be that rich royalty billionaires, but they were never there. So they're like, fake it till you make it, try to get there. Like, think about it. You're making all this billions in currency. You're this rich family. You need to go out there and sell watches. You need to go sell Bibles. You need to go sell, cell phones. You know what I'm saying to you? I mean, most people would think that demolishes your brand, but with the Trumps, it's and Michael knows better. I mean, those years, remember all those things? He had the steaks, he had the chicken.
What are you talking about? He had the vodka. He has now guitars. He has guitars. He has a meme coin. He has a. You name it. He's got all the real estate deals going on, the golf course deals going on all over the world. The big one, of course, Truth Social. I mean, that's increased his net worth by about $4+ billion just on his Truth Social holdings. So, again, I'm not sure. And Melania owns a piece of that too, in her own name. So I'm not sure if there was something that I was concerned of in this Jeffrey Epstein file, the last thing I'd be doing is, for $40 million, I would be doing some, action Mission Impossible style female version of it with Manolo Blahnik, right? Especially knowing that there's dirt there that's going to come out. I mean, it's funny. Have you seen that meme? They have like the last 14 first ladies all standing around a table, and they have a photo of this one and like Jackie O in her famous hats, and this one with her shawl, and then there's Melania standing there in the nude, right? I mean, it's this is the concern that I would have for doing one of these. It's great when you're doing it, when you think that there is no repercussion, right? Like in physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, what do you think the opposite reaction is going to be when Adelita Grijalva gets sworn in, the 218 vote hits, that document, that 100,000+ documents on the Epstein file is released to Congress, and it potentially implicates her or Donald or somebody in their orbit that negates this movie that they want to make into a miniseries.
Exactly. To the heart of the matter. Yes.
Hence why they need to keep you quiet. Mike Wolff, thank you so much for joining us, as I do in every single episode. Again, I'm going to say it one more time, please keep smashing the hearts. More importantly, check out that Chiron at the top. All right? Please subscribe to all of us, regardless. Michael Wolff, we're definitely going to be doing this again. And Lev, as I always allow, what's that?
And anytime. And Lev, are you in New York? Where are you?
Lev is in Florida.
I'm in Florida, but get my number from Michael, and let's talk. I think there's some stuff we should do a live, and there's a lot of stuff we could talk about. I think very fascinating. I think information.
Totally. I'm grateful to Michael for introducing us.
It's always my pleasure. You're a great guest, and most importantly, a great friend. Lev, take us out as you always do.
Well, look, guys, I mean, this is something really important. This is a real special Substack Live. I mean, first of all, it started off with you had the three Michaels, and then I was lucky enough to join. Michael Wolff is doing some incredible reporting, and Michael, by bringing him on here and having Popek here, explain it all, I think this is the most important thing and the subject that the Democrats need to keep up. We keep talking about, we keep screaming. Keep the survivors' voices loud. Keep them alive, because this is Donald Trump's kryptonite. This is why Melania Trump is trying to rewrite history. This is why they're trying to do the cover-up. This is what it's all about. And thank God we have brave people like Michael Wolff standing out there, because not too many people would have the courage to go out there and sue the First Lady, especially knowing what Donald Trump's doing with the DOJ, the way he's weaponizing it. So God bless you, Michael, for doing what you're doing. And so we need... I'm sorry about that, but that's why we need each and every one of you to support us right now and make our platform even bigger, louder, and so our voices could be heard like my dogs are being heard right now. So please subscribe, make sure, and if those of you that can, become paid subscribers, because this is what we do. This is our family. This is what keeps us alive and keeps us being able to be independent. That's what true independent journalism, where we don't have to depend on corporate sponsors or billionaires to be able to report to you. So thank you, family, and let's show Michael Wolff some love. Let's get him some subscribers, some paid subscribers, and thanks, Michael, for having me on. Thank you.
Always, Lev. I'll catch you later. Mike Wolff, thank you as well. I always appreciate you coming on. I always appreciate you providing facts that were given to you, not hearsay, not secondhand, but firsthand facts, because that's something that we're all missing in this environment right now.
We will speak soon.
You got it, my brother. Thank you.
Thanks.
So to all of you, let me just say this. At some point today, definitively as well tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a paid subscriber Q&A where I ask you to write your questions down and come on up. Like the way I just had Lev and Mike Wolff and Mike Popak, I ask you to come on up. I ask you to join me. Join me in this journey. I can't do it on my own. Lev can't do it on his own. Popak can't do it. We all need Midas Touch Network. Make sure you subscribe and join to them as well. Please join us. And by the way, question that a few people have been asking, how do I get my limited edition signed Revenge? As you all know, DM me here. It is the reason why I'm able to predict with so much certainty what's going on, because I understand the game. I was there during the creation of the game. I actually helped to create part of the game. And there's so much in here about what took place and why you're seeing litigation now being brought against Alvin Bragg, against Tish James, James Comey, John Bolton. So many of those answers are in my book. So if you want to get the book, just DM me. We have about 280 or 290 left. So if you want yours, again, this is a little different. This is the limited signed edition of the book. DM me. I'll tell you how to get yours. Thank you all for joining. We're going to be doing more of these with Mike Wolff and with other very special guests. So please make sure to restack this to all of your friends, to family, to neighbors, to your postman, for all I care. Make sure you do it. And thank you, and have a great Friday evening. Happy Halloween to all.